Hey everybody, Rockin' Larry Lockin' from the Oregon coast. I know everybody's going to find this weird, but I was taking some moon pictures a little bit ago. It's foggy. Years ago I was taking some pictures out here at this direction, and I swear inside of the bushes I could see a lady sitting at a table, you know, and it was kind of cool, I thought, and everything. And I'm panning around today here, you know, and then like I scroll in, and I'm trying to look at that with the naked eye and see what that is. I don't see anything else, but it doesn't appear like there's anything there when you're just looking. But through the camera, especially when I'm trying to take a photo, it really looks, well, it doesn't look like that lady sitting at a table, but it did a long time ago when I took photos of this. And I don't know what in the hell, you know, I'll have to look in the morning again. I don't really think much of it because I've seen all kinds of things like this before, and it's probably, there's some houses there, there's a street over past those trees, but that's just weird that high up. I don't know. My eyes aren't as good as they once were though either. So, I mean, it could be just it's just a beam, I'm sure. You know. Well, it is kind of a trip though. I'll pan back out. Because that's in the tree, literally. There's that house right there at top, and then behind it though, across the street is, yeah, I don't know what in the fuck that is. Yeah, little things catch my eye. I mean, I'm not gonna get all, oh god, it's a being or anything, but yeah, it's really weird. It's like you're looking through onto a street, somebody standing there just, but that's up in the air so far. It's not, nobody's standing right in the tree. Gotta be a beam or something. It's just that hole in the tree that shows it is really bizarre. Okay, I mean, does that look kind of odd in a distance? Looks like I got a hole carved out of the tree, but and then one time I got some photos of it. It was it was kind of twilight, so it was still light out a little bit. And I didn't even notice until I started looking at the photos. A lot of times when the energy's high, the lights will, street lights will pop through and all that jazz. Nothing going on. They got yeah, that's some serious blue, whatever the hell they got that's blue over at that house. A light. Yeah. And all these gorgeous power lines of love. Power lines that will connect us all quantumly entangled together in these. When we ascend, we will all be attached by wires like this. It's a preview. Yeah. It gets kind of weird out here sometimes at night out in the front, well in the back especially too, all the elemental pictures I've taken over the years, but at night, got the weird shadows and stuff. Yeah, the blue is here and there. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I mean, I can't tell. Street light something or something from one of the stores. There's a, you know, there's a mall right over past a lot of that shit. Yeah, and it's weird when you get a photo kind of in the daytime over here, but when the lights are on, okay, so it's twilight and they're out. These things literally look like they're in some kind of a plasma type orb, you know, in the trees. Something just popped in right there too. Yeah. It's interesting, and it got me to thinking too. I wonder, you know, when creation was started, was there any sight or sound, or was it just a feel, and then consciousness led to the senses starting, the eyesight, you know, the sound you could hear. Before that, was it just a feeling and an intuition? I know, it's kind of a wild thought, huh? I guess. And then with every sense opening, of course, it opened up new experiences to experience, new experiences to manifest. You know, creator gods is to create, creator gods and goddesses to create, co-create. You know, and then the darkness came about. And I maintain this, people. Creation did not create the dark. Okay, and I'll explain that real quick. So, creator gods and goddesses got to doing their own thing and designing universes and all that, you know, with the help of their local creation manifestation centers, which I call nebulas. They're always creating life inside of there. And so what happened was, it was just kind of an oversight. So beings forgot to keep spreading the love, spiraling the light. And that's the lesson that Alcyone of the Pleiades teaches by spiraling. It spirals that love and light, like a big DNA strand right out, and it pings onto all the, you know, the 8 other suns in our galaxy. And everything that it touches, when Alcyone spirals her light and love out, it comes right back to her. So everything it pings off of, that effect that it had on that person, and it's always a loving one, that comes back. She gets that back. But people forgot to keep it in mind to keep spiraling the love and spiraling the light. So things got darker in certain places. It got spread too thin. The light just got spread way too thin, and things got dense. And with density created a physical type body, I'll just use this as an example, to have to attend to. That body produced attachments because you have to take care of that body, and that body will have wants and needs outside of it to take care of it. You know, when it's in a more physical form. So hence, you know, things started like addictions and whatnot, and guilt feelings because of the darkness, and, you know, deception from each other. And that spiraled and spiraled and spiraled and created all kinds of dark, you know, low. I don't want to really call it dark. I'm going to try to get out of that, you know, calling it one thing or another as far as good, bad. But the denser, darker, yuckier environment, you know, rodents, all kinds of shit like that. That dark was brought about because the light and the love was getting spread too thin. People need to remember to spiral that, like Alcyone spread too thin. People need to remember to spiral that, like Alcyone does. You know, so that created dark throughout parts of the universe. You know, we are not the first people to go through this. I mean, I'm sure we're one of the only races in our local vicinity still dealing with bullshit, but they all have too. And most of them in a lot more chaotic ways, even. I mean, their Atlantis and Lemurias were just as deadly and violent as ours. In fact, some of these planets were destroyed. Tiamat and Marduk were that's another thing. People get hung up on the name of the planet between. Well, it was 2 planets, and they weren't destroyed at the same time. Okay, I mean, you know, there's certain things I'm not open for debate on. That's one of them, and I don't say them unless I am not. It would take an extraterrestrial itself telling me different. So Tiamat and Marduk were destroyed one was destroyed about 65 million years ago. The other was about 150. Different space wars. That's all. They were both, you know, human civilization planets like ours, advanced, like Venus had on it. You know, like Mars, of course, and all that good jazz, and Neptune and Saturn. My hunch is that probably every single one of those planets in our galaxy practically were. I'm just saying the ones I know of that I've had confirmed to me by terrestrials. God. Yeah, anyway. You know, and just like when I tell people, some things are not open for debate for me. The Andromedans and the Arcturians, they're the same thing, except for they're from different places. The reason that is because Andromeda and in Arcturus' galaxy, their 2 areas were chosen as the 2 chosen galaxies out of like 1,000 in our sector of the universe. Okay, so the race, the collective of people that came here out of the Antares Gateway from we don't know where, a couple galaxies away somewhere. Okay, they were a collective of people, of different kind of humans, all kinds of humans. There was, you know, there was cat and feline humans that look like, you know, Orxa from the GFL. There were, and the other one, there were reptoid humans. There were human humans like us. There were human humans like us that were all kinds of different colors of the rainbow and shit. All that, right? Eagle humans, everything. Eagleoids, reptoids and eagleoids. Okay, so they were a collective of about 200 different families, and in those 200 different families, there's about 33 different races, is what I'm hearing. You know, but this is all fluid, of course. So they came here circa about a quintillion years ago, and they started to populate the galaxy. Their first seedings were simultaneously by the same exact crew out of that collective of different humans. It was the same exact blueprint for Arcturus and Andromeda. They're just about identical when you know somebody of those personalities. There's a little bit of a difference, but you got to really know what you got to really know what you're looking for, and even at that, it's hard to explain the difference. It's just some subtleties. It's like I know it completely, but it's hard to describe it. And really, the thing about that is, though, too, is for every Arcturian soul and Andromedan soul that you could put together and show their slight little differences, I could go get you another one from each and reverse it and show the same thing the other way. So, I mean, yeah, it's tricky, but they were the same race. They had wars with each other. They had a big-time war, Andromeda and Arcturus did, an intergalactic war. It was nasty. This is way, way, way before any other of these other races came along in our sector. And then, of course, the races came along in our sector. And then, of course, Lyra was next. Lyra and Vega were not long after Arcturus. They were seeded right pretty quick afterward. Pleiades and all those other places a long time later. And it's my understanding the original Pleiadians that have been there the last billion or so years or more aren't the original ones that were there. Their shit was all destroyed. They had like 10 planets left. You know, only three were habitable. The other 7 could be like terraformed eventually. That race that I'm talking about is no longer here. They don't exist anymore. There was one little faction of them, and they left. They stayed around, and they helped the Lyrans and that one family from Vega and that Mancy crew. They helped them to seed Pleiades and get it going, and then they took off. They're that fourth mysterious family. They were golden. They were the golden ones. They looked like gold human beings, except some of their heads were kind of tilted at it looked kind of like a, like a square to the side. I could draw it real easily, but I can't really describe what it looks like. It almost looks like a gold Gumby in a way. They did. Kinda. And so this collective, let me get back to that, okay? This collective that came here, these 33 different races, 200 different families, they weren't fleeing anywhere. They were from a galaxy that had all kinds of planets that were united by each other, you know, just like traveling to another country, but they had different planets right in a row, right by each other, of different kind of humans. These were a collective of them, of all these different races that wanted to go build and start a new civilization somewhere together. Yeah, they weren't running from anything. They just they just took off and came here, right? And so it started. So what ended up happening is, you know, those 20, and there were 20,000 of them, by the way, as far as the number of people came, approximately. So what ended up happening was, of course, you can imagine, they went on to create, the Orion civilization, Pleiades, Procyon, Sirius, of course, Lyra after Arcturus, Lyra and Vega. So, and many more that spawned onto many more, you know what I mean? Those were just the blueprints. But what ended up happening was, so it wasn't long before that 20,000 was trillions, not just billions like Earth has, but trillions all throughout the galaxy, right? And of course, you can imagine after tens of millions of years, these races kind of, they're doing their own thing in that sector, and things start to devolute And, you know, wars and conflicts happened. Right? I mean, it's, I'm going off this, I mean, I'm winging this by telling you this. I know the whole story, but because I came up with it through consciousness and had it confirmed by my guides, but, you know, use discernment, because everything, you're in your own reality. Everything is in your own reality, but yet it's mixed with everything. It's like this. I'll say this before I cut out. So many people have such a hard fucking time with the concept that when they look out into the universe, some people say it's a holographic universe, it's holographic, and some people say no, that's physical, that's really there. People have a hard time grasping the fact that it's both. And if you don't understand that, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? It's not trying to be arrogant, but it's both. You know, that's one of the things I don't think it would be, even if I knew how to explain it to you. I don't know whether it was that or that. But it's both. And so many people have a hard time wrapping their mind around it that I've ran into. And I don't, you know, and I can understand in a way because it's hard to explain why it is. But it is. It's just like this. You have free will in the universe, right? But so does everybody else that's around you, right? So you got that to contend with. Yes, you are in control of your own destiny, right? But the kink of it is, in this game, is other people can buck with it. So, you know, it's not just like this, oh, big fairy tale, like, oh, you are your master creator and control your destiny. You know, like some, you can imagine some, you know, gentleman sitting there cross-legged on the floor, 25 or 6 to 4, and some soft music in the background playing, like, you are in control of your own destiny, dear ones. You know, something like that. And I'm not down in that. That's kind of cool sometimes, but really you are. But you also got to, what they don't tell you is, you also got to fucking, you know, watch your back a little bit. And I try to say that to not make people paranoid, but yeah, you just got to be, you know. But they say that too. They say that in their own ways, you know, set their boundaries and stuff like that. And yeah, and that doesn't mean, when they say set your boundaries, that doesn't mean just, you know, say fuck it, not have anything to do with it, close your mind completely. You cannot operate on a value system or a basis or a what's it called? A belief system. All that shit. Systems are wonderful for reference points. But you have, every single now moment you're in is new. Even if you've had a million just like it. You can take what you've learned from before that and what you've experienced before that, right? As reference points and tools, of course, that's a smart thing to do. But don't, just because this happened in this situation doesn't mean this is going to happen in that situation, or vice versa, right? And yet it might. Okay? So, you know, you're ready for all innate possibilities. It's just like the Galactics. My guides, they don't, I just have them come in when they want to channel. I don't have one-on-one conversations with them. I could. I don't anymore. I learned all kinds of galactic history from them over the years, right? Talking with them. But there's nothing I want to know, and this is why, because they only operate in parallel realities. Right? They can't predict what's going to happen in your timeline. They can give you about, you know, 6, 7 different examples of what could happen. But if you have half a brain, you can figure that fucking out by yourself. They'd actually be remiss to tell you. I mean, you can figure that out. What it is, it comes down to this. Some of those possibilities, say there's 7 outcomes that could happen to you. 1 or 2 of them are like, fuck, man, I don't want that to happen. So you block that out. You're like, oh, yeah. And then so you're like, oh, well, what's going to happen? What could happen? But you're looking for the answer that doesn't include that problem timeline. You're looking for that answer is what you're looking for when you're acting like that or saying that kind of shit. Because you know what could happen if you hey, you're in this situation. If you go here, if you go this way from it, that could happen. If you go the other way, this will probably happen. You know, if you go that other way, you know, this and that'll probably happen. Right? So you know the innate possibilities. But in parallel realities, timelines, you know, you can't say for 100%. You can just, you know, do everything and take every precaution you can and leave it up to the universe after you've done all the work. That's not willy-nilly going, fuck it, I'm just going to leave it up to the universe. Okay, you can do that, but, you know, you'll get burned one day by not at least being conscious of it. Conscious that you have a consciousness. Anyway, I hope that helped. I don't know what in the hell I just said. It just came out as I'm watching the plasma beings.